Alright chaps, welcome to another Friday Waffle. I bet you're always glad to see this video, not because you want to watch me talking pish, but because you know it's Friday, which is always a good thing. Hope you're all doing well. I've had another sort of rather lacklustre week on the job front. Still waiting to hear. Applications had to be finished by Wednesday, I think it was, of this week. So interviews are going to be next week, and then I'll probably hear whether I've got a job or not by the end of next week. So I think the end of next week's probably going to be D-Day. It's basically whether I have a job or whether I don't have a job. So fingers crossed. But yeah, it's starting to kind of drag on a bit. I mean, that's now 2 months almost since I first got wind of this position. It's a pain in the arse. But anyway, enough about that. Weather's certainly turned. You can tell it's winter. I mean, it's been mild for quite a lot of the time, but it's certainly started to get a bit colder in the last couple of weeks. But we are almost, I don't know how many days to Christmas, so what can we expect? So right, anyway guys, I've got a wee, my usual wee list of things. Excuse me. I was, one of my subscribers made an observation about how I'm always clearing my throat and belching, and it's a fact. When I start talking, whether I'm just doing one of these face-to-face things or whether it's making a mash-up or whatever it is, when I start talking, I don't know what it must be, but it seems to always bring up a bit of gas. So that's what it is. I think it's one of these things that comes with age, guys. So you've got all that to look forward to. So yeah. Anyway, what have we been up to this week? What have I been doing? Yeah, Grand Theft Auto 5 on the PlayStation 4. Now I did borrow Grand Theft Auto 5 for the 360, and I must admit I only played it for a very short space of time. I just never really got into it, and I moved on to other things before long. But yeah, it was my birthday last month, so I decided to treat myself to that. Got to say I'm really enjoying it. I mean, I'm maybe 2 hours into it so far. My TV, it's only 1080i, so I'm not getting the full, obviously, HD experience. Well, I'm getting it, but it's not going to look as good as it would be if it was 1080p. It's early days. I mean, because I've not played the sort of 360 one that much, looking at it, it doesn't look that much different. Although some of the, I mean, I've seen a few videos and photographs online that people have taken, and it looks astonishing. There's one particular video where you're on a motorbike and you're driving through the rain, and it just looks absolutely spectacular. It really does. One of the interesting additions to the game is they've allowed a first-person view, so you can basically play the whole game through the eyes of your character rather than the third person, like sort of Tomb Raider type style. It does make it quite interesting, although I still prefer the third person when you're walking about. But what makes it really good is when you're driving cars or motorbikes, whatever it is, you can go to first person and you're actually inside the car, so that's really cool. But I've had a massive amount of enjoyment just driving about. I mean, I've been doing the missions, I'm not that far in this, I've maybe played it for 2 hours all in, but just driving about and taking in the atmosphere of the city at night time, it's astonishing. I mean, games now, I mean, I'm firmly a retro gamer at heart, but you can't but help but be impressed with what these guys, what they can now do with video games. It's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. So yeah, I've been playing a lot of Grand Theft Auto 5. Well, I've seen playing a lot. I've probably played 2 hours, which for some people is probably less than an evening's video game shenanigans. I've been busy with my videos. I've already got, one thing, I'm going to score this off so I know I don't duplicate myself. Last week I was asking for any ideas for a new feature, and Super Whizball came up with a feature where I play games from a particular year. So I went away and had a think about it, and I came up with a thing called That Was the Year That Was. The first year I looked at was 1978, I went into my MAME. Now in MAME you can look at games in year format. Before 1978 there was very few games, very few, very little indeed. What I might do is, again, I think it was Super Wizzball or somebody else came up with, why don't you make one video from, you know, the year dot up to 1977 and then carry on. So I might do that. But yeah, I made one for 1978. I basically picked 10 of the most sort of like better known games that I was aware of back then, and just basically play them for 2 or 3 minutes. And I've got to say the reaction to this has been incredible. It seems to have really struck a chord with people. I think what people find interesting, I know I do, is just seeing videos of these really old games. I mean, if you want to watch bloody Legend of Zelda or Call of Duty being played, there's 10 million videos out there on YouTube land. But looking at some of the really early games getting played, it's quite interesting. I mean, there are a lot of people who their history for video games probably doesn't go back beyond, say, the Spectrum, whatever, and they're simply not aware of these games. I mean, I'm 47, just on 47, so I was lucky enough to be there right at the very start. I remember these crusty old games. I mean, I was only a kid when they came out, but I can remember them, and it's part of our heritage. It's what's basically brought the video game industry to where it is now. So without these real crusty, most of the time shit games, we wouldn't have Call of Duties, we wouldn't have Grand Theft Auto 5. So yeah, that was the year that was. That seems to have been incredibly popular. I'm almost at 100 views, and it's only been live for what, 3-4 days. So yeah, thanks to everybody that's commented, that's watched the video. Any other ideas for features, please pop them in. I've already done That Was the Year That Was 1979. I finished that last night. I've watched it through, it looks quite interesting. Some better known games. I mean, obviously it's quite exciting actually making these, because you see these games, you're like, oh, I can't wait to play that one. So yeah, that one's already in the can. I've already done an Arcade Perfect My Arse. Got that one, that's going to get put out. Now what I'm going to do, guys, in fact I would normally talk about this at the end of the video, but just to give you an idea of where I am, I'm intending to have an Arcade Perfect My Arse on a Monday. On a Wednesday you're going to get That Was the Year That Was, and then obviously on a Friday you've got the Friday Waffle, and then in between the sort of like the Tuesday, what would it be, the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, you're just going to get sort of 10-minute mashups. So that's how I'm planning to do it, guys. I'm hoping to get That Was the Year That Was, Arcade Perfect and Waffle all out in 1 week. I'm going to split it up, miss a day type thing. So yeah, that's where the channel is going. What else? Right, okay, that's that. Right, yeah, this isn't a particularly video game related thing. It's just something that's kind of sprung to mind. As everybody knows, unfortunately the world at the moment, particularly Africa, they're trying to fight this horrific illness, Ebola. What makes it particularly devastating is the fact that you can't, anybody that's got it, you cannot touch them. So it basically means that mothers can't cradle their dying kids, they can't hold their hands, wives can't hold their husband's hands, you can't hold your mum's hands. Basically there's no contact, you can't make any contact with these people. It's awful, absolutely awful. So yeah, you can't help but be touched by, you know, what's going on there. Now, as some of you probably know, Bob Geldof and Midge have got back again, back in the studio, and they've brought out they've called it Band-Aid Theory. It's basically the Band-Aid song, which came out in 1985 or 1984 it may have been. They've revamped it slightly. Now, you know, you can say what you want about the people taking part. I mean, I watched the video of it, and my first impression was like, don't know who that is, don't know who that is, don't know who that is, don't know who that is. Even though it tells you the names, like never heard them, never heard them, never heard them. Yeah, you've got One Direction, you've got bloody Bono who looks out of sorts. You've got all these odd bods. Yeah, you've got to you know, you can look at this two ways. You could say it's a pile of shite, the song's crap, don't like One Direction. Yeah, that's absolutely true. But you know what? Supposing if it makes one person buy the record once and it helps anybody, then what is the problem with it? You know, it's got to be a good thing. I mean, I do my bit for charity. I give money every month to Action Aid, and my wife does the same. She gives to various charities, so we do our bit for charity. Now, as you know, guys, you're constantly getting badgered for money. I mean, you get companies phoning up. I mean, I get one of the particular things that I dislike is I get phone calls from sort of call centres asking me if I can increase how much money I'm paying. Now, it's actually just gone up by £3 in the last month. So I give more than, no, I wouldn't say more than I can afford. I give plenty as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if this job goes tits up, it may be something I'll have to think about cancelling at the moment. But yeah, I'm constantly getting badgered to give more money. We're always, in this society we live in, we're always getting asked to give to charity. Where does it stop? You can't go for a paper at a corner shop without somebody asking you to give money. It's just, it is literally never ending. I mean, Children in Need was on recently and they raised a huge amount of money. Now, I personally don't give to Children in Need because the one I choose to give to is Comic Relief. I can't afford to give to two, so I always make a point of giving to Comic Relief. Anyway, yeah, I'm kind of going off topic slightly. One thing that slightly perturbs me on YouTube is at the top of my channel, before I can look at anything, I've got this big massive banner called Band-Aid 30. It's constantly boom, buy now, buy now, buy now, buy now. Now, I've not bought it. I personally haven't bought the song. If I had bought it, I would still constantly get badgered with this. Now, you know, at what point does advertising for charity become too much? One thing that was interesting I was reading about, again I'm going a bit off topic here, Adele apparently was asked to take part and she chose not to, and she was then slammed by Bob Geldof for not taking part in it. Now apparently she has given a big massive wad of her, you know, not very small wealth to charity, and she's never made any song and dance about it. She apparently disliked some of the lyrics, saying that it kind of paints Africa in quite a negative way, that it's this disease-ridden, you know, backwards society. Whereas apparently 7 out of the 10 most biggest growth countries in the world are in Africa. So she felt that it wasn't, and it was also going on about how depressing Africa was at Christmas. Well, she says that apparently she goes out to South Africa every year at Christmas because it's such a happy place. So anyway, she chose not to do that, and she was then constantly getting badgered by Bob Geldof for not taking part in it. Yeah, and then you've also got the well, why don't, I mean, you had bloody Bono, who I would hate to think how much he must be worth. If these guys, all the people in that video, put their hand in their pocket and just donated a big wad of money, it would probably be 10 times what they could possibly raise out of doing this thing. I mean, one thing that somebody was criticising the whole Band-Aid thing is, you know, we're sort of being told, oh, how wonderful these pop stars are for giving up their time. Well, I mean, how much time did they give up? They gave up maybe 2 hours on a Saturday. They didn't give up any money. They gave up 2 hours of their time, which is fair enough, you know. And at the end of the day, if it gets any money for charity, then it's going to be a good thing. But at what point do you like the fact that YouTube has a big banner on the channel saying "Give to charity, give to charity"? It's in your face the whole time. I personally don't like that. I do my bit for charity. I mean, I've raised money for a local hospice near me for kids, and when I do my West Highland Way race, I always raise money for that. So I do my bit. I've got a clear conscience when it comes to charity, but I do personally get a bit tired of having this in your face the whole time. You know, you can't watch a video without seeing these images all the time, you know, and it's heart-rendering. You watch these images of kids, dying, and it is heart-rending, but I really think there's a time and a place for things, and having it on YouTube all the time, I think it's just a wee bit much. So anyway guys, a bit of a sombre subject there, but just curious as to what your thoughts are on having sort of things like that in your face. I'm not, at the end of the day, I do think it's a good thing, not having it in your face, but the whole charity thing. But we've only got so much money, the economy's apparently on its knees at the moment, there's a lot of us struggling for money, and I hate to say it, but charity does definitely start at home. So anyway guys, what's your thoughts on that? I'm going to pause this before it cuts out back into... Okay, right, that's my charity bit done. Right, talking to charity, where was I? I was up at the shopping centre yesterday, and I was walking past the Heart Foundation. Again, it's a charity I take a lot of. I think they've got the majority of my kids' toys and clothes and that kind of stuff. I was passing by, and I've never been one to pop into charity shops to see if they've got any video games. So I thought, I'll go have a quick look in. So I had a look in, and they had, I would say, maybe a dozen video games. I had like FIFA 2004 or some damn thing, a few football games, a couple of PC games, nothing of any note. But I did see Metroid Prime, the second one on the GameCube. I think it was $1.99. So I picked that up. Oh, pardon me. And they also had Wii Sports Resort for the Wii. That's an utterly fantastic game, but I think I sold it a long time ago. So anyway, I picked up that. That was $2.99. Brought them home. Turns out I've already got Metroid Prime 2 for the GameCube. And when I opened the box for Wii Sports Resort, it's bloody Wii Sports disc that's in it. So it's the wrong disc. So that was £5 I'll never get back again. If anybody wants to swap anything for either of these two games, obviously it's Wii Sports or the Metroid Prime number 2 for the GameCube, let me know and I can get it in the post to you. So yeah, that was my first and only charity shop raid, and it didn't work out too well. So yeah, that's that. Okay, right, next one. Video games, the price off. I obviously bought Grand Theft Auto 5. Now what I did was I bought it through Tesco Direct, and I was given a voucher, a code thing, which meant I got it for, excuse my side, is that my work's phone making a noise? Nah. I got it for, the recommended price was, £44. I got a fiver off it using this voucher, which took it down to 39, and I got an email today from Tesco Direct saying that because they price match or something, if the price falls they will match it. They're going to give me a further refund of £2, which meant I got Grand Theft Auto 5 for 37 quid. Online it's, is it £59? It's either £55 or £59. Yeah, I think it's £55, which is what, £18 more than I paid for it. Seriously, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to work out. It's surely going to cost more money to burn a game onto a disc, to print off a manual, put it in a box, ship it to a shop who then has their markup on it. So how the hell can I buy a game online cheaper, £18 cheaper, well, what would that be, 30% cheaper than it costs to click a link on my console and download it? I just cannot get my head around how on earth companies can charge more to digitally download it than it would take to go and buy it, to buy a physical copy. I cannot understand for the life of me how that is. That rationale also applies to what do you call them, Kindle books, e-books, whatever you want to call it. I've got an Amazon Kindle, and you know, I go to buy I go to buy a book, and it'll be I'll check that. It'll tell you hard copy is paper copy is maybe £7.99, Kindle £9.99. Sometimes the Kindle version, the electronic version, is more expensive. It just doesn't make any sense to me. If anybody out there knows why or the reason for electronic versions being more expensive, then please tell me. One person did say to me, or not to me, but I did read, somebody mentioned obviously Sony, you know, possibly £55 is the recommended price for Grand Theft Auto 5 in the PlayStation 4. Now, could it be to try and get sales that outlets like Tesco Direct, Game, although seeing that Game are always pretty damned expensive, do these companies somehow subsidise the price? So are they possibly making a smaller profit or even a loss? Maybe. I wouldn't think they'd make a loss somehow. That wouldn't make any sense. So could it be that these companies are actually subsidising the price to bring it down? But I mean, £18 is a shed load of money. That's an awful lot of money. So yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. And I mean, I would never ever buy download an electronic game at full price. It's just absolutely nuts. Doesn't make any sense at all. So yeah, what's your thoughts on digitally downloading stuff? You know, if games were either at the very least the same price as I can go and buy online, or else a fiver cheaper, I would be all over the digital downloads. I really, really would. But you know, to download, and I mean, yeah, it's costing you electricity, it's costing you bandwidth to download what might be, I think Grand Theft Auto 5 is something like 50 gig, it's something phenomenal. So yeah, it's costing you money to actually acquire the thing. You're not getting a box, you're not getting instructions, you're not getting the disc. I mean, I've got, obviously with Grand Theft Auto 5, you get the map, you don't get any of that, and yet they're wanting £55 off your money. That's just absolute nuts. So yeah, I can't understand that one bit, guys. Right, I'm going to pause this once more. Okay, right, next topic. I read an article on the Retro Unlimited website, and it got me thinking. They were talking about video shops, old video shops. Now, me being a kid of the 60s, 1967 to be specific, I was a kid when video recorders first came out, and back then you didn't really buy them as such. You actually rented them. You rented them, and we rented our first video recorder. It was a massive behemoth. I can't even remember the name of the bloody thing. It was a Panasonic or something. Don't know what it was. But anyway, yeah, back in 1982, 1983. In fact, it's before that probably. I would say 80, 81, something like that. Maybe even before that. You rented a video recorder. And the only way, to understand, guys, back in the early 80s, there was no such thing as cable TV. Sky TV did not exist. The only TV you had was your 3 channels or 4 channels, your BBC One, BBC Two. Later on, Channel 4 came along, and you had your independent, your ITV. Films came out in the cinema, and then about 6 years later, they would release. They would show a film on TV, and it was always the Christmas. It was always round about the Christmas time. Like ITV would show. I can always remember watching Jaws on TV, and I couldn't wait for this. I mean, you know, it had been in the cinema, and you had no way. I mean, there was no such thing as internet. There was no such thing as streaming video. Nothing like that at all. So to see these films, you either saw it in the cinema. If you missed it in the cinema, the only other time you get to see it would be when it was eventually shown on TV. So it was always a massive highlight when a Christmas film came on. It was amazing. So anyway, when the video recorder things came out, subsequently they opened video shops. Now, these were usually wee independent shops. They were usually dark, dingy, they usually smelled. The carpet was always dirty with God knows what. But you went in, you usually maybe had to pay like a £5 membership or something. You got a wee card that you kept in your wallet. And yeah, you would go to these video shops, and you would just spend ages picking up videotapes, and you know, excuse me, the excitement of picking up a film you'd heard about. I mean, as an 80s kid, the big films back in the day when I was at school that you spoke about at school and you got to see in video shops. There were things like The Warriors, there was The Wanderers, which was another gang-based film, there was Quadrophenia, which was a gang-based film, there was, what else was there? There was like The Exorcist, you got to see horror films, Killer Driller, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. All these films, McVicker, they were always really, really violent films that you got to see. But it was magical going to the video shop and you'd maybe get your, I don't know, your pal who was a bit older looking, and he would hire you the film. And yeah, you'd go to your mate's house and you'd all sit around the TV and watch this film. It was brilliant. It was absolutely awesome getting these films. I mean, back then, most video shops, they might only, if you're lucky, they would only have one copy of a film. So 9 times out of 10, the film you wanted wouldn't be there. But then you would pick up films, some of them would turn out to be utter crap. I mean, I always remember it was a... my dad was never into films. He didn't like watching films at all. So me and my mum, we used to love when Friday night we would watch a film, a documentary or some thriller type thing. So one night, I think I'd passed my driving test at this point, so this was mid-80s. I drove up to the video shop with my mum and we went in and we're looking at all these different titles, and she spotted one and she read it out and it was like, this is a true story based on a killer nun. And she thought, oh, this looks real interesting. And I thought, okay, yeah, that looks good, let's get that. So we took it home and we got some chocolate, some box of Smarties and a cup of tea and all that, sat down to watch it, and within about 10 minutes there was some extremely graphical lesbian scene, at which point my mum decided that was enough and the video got switched off. I later watched all of it quite a few times before it was returned. And it turns out that film was indeed called Killer Nun, which was one of the infamous video nasties. People getting drilled through the eyeballs and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was a video nasty, but it looked like a sort of a sensible film to mum, and obviously she didn't realise what it was, and neither did I. But yeah, I really miss these. I mean, you could also buy the film. I mean, Star Wars. You could buy Star Wars on videotape, and it was like $89.99. I mean, seriously, that was the price. It was almost like £100 to buy a film. This was way before videotapes came out to buy for a tenner. You can get DVDs now for £3. So yeah, that was where we went to get films back then. Later on, these little places shut down, and you got I can't even remember the name of them. You had Blockbuster. There was one called the Video Drive-In. There was various video shops sprung up, and basically you took a membership out and you could hire like 4 or 5 videotapes, and then later it became DVDs. And to me, the magic was lost, because you went in and Blockbuster used to have this promise: get the film you're wanting, or else get it free next time. So in other words, if they didn't have Jurassic Park 3, then you would be able to get it next time for free. But they had like 15 million copies of each film, so you were always guaranteed to get what you wanted. So yeah, you kind of lost the whole pick and mix, random aspect of the old video shops was lost, because you knew exactly what you were getting, whereas back then it was a question of you had to see what was on offer, what films were there, and sometimes I say you would get some shit made for American TV film, other times you'd get some video nasty, but other times you'd get a film which was fantastic. So yeah, it moved from that to the sort of like the hyperstore Blockbuster, but the magic was lost when that happened. But here we are, guys, 2 years on, Blockbuster is no more. I don't think you can even hire physical media anymore. I don't think there's any shops. I think Blockbuster was the last one to close its shops. Now, I don't know whether that was down to, well, it probably would be lack of money. Would that be down to the fact that you've got all these online video things? I mean, a few years ago I joined, was it Love Film, I think it was. you can obviously you can take a membership out. They'll send you 5 films, 5 DVDs. You watch at your leisure. You send it back. So yeah, they all kind of kicked off maybe about 10 years ago. Now you don't even need that. I've got Netflix. I can just watch films on demand. It's astonishing where we've gone from to where we are now, kind of thing. But yeah, it's the whole magical aspect of it has gone for me. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to go change. I'm not going to say it was better back then. It's probably rose-coloured spectacles once again. But yeah, I miss the video shops of the 80s. It was a Friday night. It was a Friday night weekend thing. You got a takeaway food. You got your couple of videos, or probably just one video, and you went home and you watched it. It was great. Now we've got films on our iPad. We can watch any film, anywhere, any time of the day. So yeah, what are your memories of the old video shops of the 80s? I mean, I remember the one I used to go to. They eventually stocked video games. I think it was just Spectrum games, and the one game I can remember in particular they stocked was Football Manager. I think it was like £2 or something. You could hire it. So yeah, that's that one, guys. I'm going to pause this once more. Okay, very last topic I want to talk about. It was excuse me, hardware that kind of blew your mind back in the day. Now I don't particularly mean like a computer as such, but I can always remember when I upgraded. I went from a Commodore 64 to an Atari ST. There was 2 things that I got for that, and it was like science fiction. It really was. And that was a digitizer where you could actually digitize a photograph of yourself and upload it into your computer. This was just incredible. It really was. It was like science fiction. It was witchcraft. You could scan a photograph of something, or of yourself, and there you were in the computer. It was just absolutely mental. Excuse me. And the second one, which again it was Atari ST, was a sound sampler. I mean, it sounds utterly ridiculous nowadays. I mean, I'm sitting talking to you in a camera. It's recording my voice. It's recording video. We just take it for granted. Plug a USB microphone into a computer and you can talk. What is the big deal? But back in 1987, there was no such thing as digital cameras. And the only way we could upload a real sound was using this sound sampler. Is that what it's called? Yeah, sound sampler. And it was astonishing. I mean, it's hard to understand just how special that was. Uploading your voice into your Atari ST and then playing back your voice. And if you're really clever, you could link it up into a MIDI interface on the Atari ST, because it had a built-in MIDI interface, which was basically a keyboard, your standard DX synthesizer. And so you could record yourself saying hello, and then you would then play the keyboard. It'd be like hello, 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 and you could play tunes with that, and it was just incredible. It really was. It blew your mind, or at least it blew my mind and my mate's mind as well. We came up with some stupid demos, musical demos, just filled with us talking shite, using our voice and changing the frequency and that kind of stuff. It was all very much, it was a period of discovery back then. We just take for granted now sound is perfect and all that kind of thing. But yeah, back in 1987, guys, that's how we rolled. That's the fun that we had with things like digitizers, sound samplers. I always remember, what was it? It was on the Amiga. It was a piece of music software, and you could basically plank like notes, sheet music. You could just put the notes, and it would play back the music. And there was one that was actually built in, and it was "You're the Voice" by John Farnham, and it was all, it was like the MIDI. It was the Amiga playing the tune ding 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 ding. But then it got to the chorus at ding 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 ding. You're the voice, da, 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 da. And suddenly the Amiga started singing, and it was John Farnham. It's like, fuck, here he is. This is a singer singing on the computer. Absolutely astonishing. I actually remember the very first time I heard a musical sample. It was in the computer shop which I used to go to, which I've mentioned on many occasions, Ray's Computer Shop, Langston Computer Centre, owned by this Italian guy. And I can remember going in one Saturday, I think it was, to see what games, the latest games were out on the ST. And he put this disc in. He says, wait till you hear this. And it was a song called Foreign Affair by, I think it was Mike Oldfield. And the ST was singing. And it wasn't just like a scratchy sample, it was actual proper full-on music, this girl singing. And that was just incredible. And it turns out that this album, this music, was on a floppy disk. It was just unbelievable, it really was. I mean, I think I got a copy of it eventually. Then obviously there was later ones came out. I'm sure there was a Thriller one with Michael Jackson, that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it does sound, to anybody under the age of 30, you're probably thinking, what the fuck is this guy talking about? You know, he's getting excited about listening to some scratchy sample. But back in 1987, guys, things like that just didn't exist. In fact, I'm talking shite. That wasn't the first ever digitised sound. The first ever computerised digitised sound was on the Commodore 64, and it was Kung Fu. Guys, that was the battery running out, which means I've probably been talking for way too long. Yeah, it was on the Commodore 64, and it was Kung Fu fighting, and it was about the worst sample I've ever heard in my life. Well, in fact, it was the first sample I'd ever heard. The quality was diabolical, but you know what? You could tell it was Kung Fu fighting, and that was really magical. I mean, I'm talking about 1986, something like that. And I had this, you know, file that I loaded in my Commodore 64, and my Commodore 64 would actually sing 10 seconds of this song. It was just amazing. I'm sure there was another one. There was another one that I got as well. I used to just following on for that. I got these from, it would be what was probably the precursor to the internet, and it was called CompuNet, and I'm sure that was just purely for the Commodore 64. And what it basically allowed you to connect to this online sort of system. I mean, I think the BBC computer, it had one called Prestel. It was quite far advanced. But yeah, the Commodore 64 one, it was basically you had to connect, you had to get your phone and you put it inside this modem thing, and you had to tell your mum and dad that they couldn't use the phone, because when you're on this thing, it was obviously taking over the phone line. I think it was something like, I don't know what it cost, it was stupidly expensive. It was maybe like £1 for 10 minutes or something. It was really expensive. But basically it allowed your Commodore 64 to dial into this online thing. It was like a kind of news group type thing. All you really got was people putting messages up, and then there was like demos you could download. I mean, there's a guy called Graham Marsh, that's his proper name, the Mighty Bog. Now, he came out with a couple of albums for the Commodore 64, and it was all current music. It was Depeche Mode, Big in Japan, Axel F, and all these things were available from this CompuNet, and that's where I got the sound sample, the Carl Lewis one. It was quite incredible. You could also upload your own thing. The one that I got a hold of and I put up, and I think people could vote to tell could vote sort of how popular it was. There was one that I got, and it basically played Row Your Boat, row your boat gently down the stream on your Commodore 64 disk drive. But what it did was it actually made the head and the disk drive vibrate at certain frequencies, which gave the impression of music. Now, it probably completely screwed up your disk drive, but I uploaded that and I think it was quite popular, so I've got to apologise now if your 1541 disk drive fucked up due to some twat uploading a program which made the heads vibrate to the tune of Row Your Boat. Then that was me, and I do apologise, guys. But yeah, that was CompuNet. That was quite an interesting thing. It never really took off that big, but that was what kind of kick-started the whole sort of demo scene on the C64. So anyway, listen, I'm starting to prattle on a bit too much here. That is the last. Oops, that is the last of my waffle topics scored out. You'll be glad to hear. Yep, coming up, guys, as I've touched on, Monday is going to be. That was the year that was. No, sorry. Monday is going to be. Every Monday is going to be Arcade Perfect My Arse. Wednesday is going to be That Was the Year That Was, and Friday is going to be the Friday Waffle. I don't want to go changing things too much. I think they knew That Was the Year That Was. That's quite an interesting thing. I want to see if it's got any mileage in that. Certainly, it's endless amount of possibilities with that one. So yep, I'm going to keep running with that. On a good thing, I noticed my subs has gone up by about 5 in the last week. So thanks to all my new subscribers. I really appreciate you doing that. I was getting a wee bit disheartened with the numbers coming down again. I do realise that that's part and parcel of this YouTube thing that we're a member of. Have I got anything else to say? Don't think so. No. Anyway, guys, as is usual, if you're watching this on a Friday, have a great weekend. If you're watching this on Saturday, I hope you're having a great weekend. And if you're watching it after the weekend, I hope your weekend was fantastic. And that's it, guys. Please leave any comments if you've got any features you want to see featured. If you want any questions answered by myself, one of the popular things seems to be question and answers. If there's anything you want to know about myself, put it in the comments down below. Please like videos if you like them. That always helps me enormously. If you want to see more videos by myself, please subscribe. And that's it, guys. All it leaves me now is to say thanks for watching.